Have you noticed something quietly strange happening with money lately? Your paycheck lands exactly the same way it always has. But groceries now cost roughly 40% more than they did just 3 years ago. Rent climbed. Car insurance went up without any explanation. And the only people who seem genuinely unbothered by any of it are the ones who already had money to begin with. That is not paranoia. That is just the math playing out in real time. Depending on a single income in 2026 is a lot like having only one set of car keys. It works perfectly fine right up until the moment it does not. And when it stops working, you are not just inconvenienced. You are locked out of your own financial life with no backup plan within reach. The question worth asking is not whether one income feels tight right now. It is whether one income is actually a safe long-term strategy anymore. The video you are watching right now was produced on a channel with no face on camera. No live speaker. No host you can put a name to. And this channel did not exist 18 months ago. The reason it did not exist 18 months ago is straightforward: the tools required to build it did not really exist 18 months ago either. Something shifted quietly in the AI landscape, and most people in our age group have not fully registered what that shift actually means yet. AI changed what a single person sitting at a kitchen table after the kids go to bed can realistically produce. Quietly and without much fanfare, the barrier between having an idea and publishing something professional quality collapsed. My name is Root. Root spends an unreasonable amount of time thinking about money, specifically, why so many people in their 30s and 40s are working harder than their parents ever did and still ending up further behind. If you are somewhere in your 30s or 40s and you have felt that low, steady suspicion that one income is simply not going to be enough anymore, this is the video Root made for you. And before anything else, this is not going to be one of those rented Lamborghini, Guruana Beach videos. Root is tired of those too. Let Root describe the person watching this, because there is a good chance Root already knows who you are. You are somewhere between 32 and 48. You have a job, probably a decent one. You also have a mortgage or rent, a partner, possibly kids, possibly aging parents pulling at your attention and your budget simultaneously. You are not broke. But you are not building anything either. The money just sort of disappears by the end of every month, and you are not entirely sure where it goes. The math does not leave much behind. You have thought about doing something on the side. Of course you have. But every time you actually start looking into it, one of three things happens. The opportunity requires a skill you do not have time to learn from scratch. It requires capital you genuinely cannot afford to put at risk right now. Or it requires you to become a 23-year-old extrovert with a ring light and a personal brand, which, no thank you. So you close the tab. You tell yourself you will figure something out next year. And next year, you do exactly the same thing again. Root is not judging that cycle. Root lived inside it for years. The reason it keeps happening is not laziness. It is that almost every piece of side income advice on the internet was written for a completely different type of person than us. The advice does not fit the life we are actually living. Freelancing is essentially a second job disguised as freedom. Drop shipping requires capital you may not have. Day trading is a casino with a spreadsheet on top. Food delivery apps trade your time and your vehicle depreciation for cash that disappears quickly. And building a personal brand on camera at our age, with our actual lives, is not a side hustle. It is a personality transplant. Every single option asks you to become a different person before it will pay you anything. None of those options stops to ask a simpler question: what if you stayed exactly who you are, kept your existing life intact, and built something quietly on the side after work? There is one model that almost everyone in our age group consistently overlooks. The name of it sounds strange at first, and Root is asking you to stay with it for just a moment. Faceless YouTube channels. Root knows how that lands. Stay with it. A faceless channel is exactly what the name describes. A YouTube channel that publishes videos without anyone ever appearing on camera. No face. No live presenter. No personal brand attached to a real human being. The videos cover topics that people are already searching for every single day. They get discovered the same way any video gets discovered. And the platform pays the channel for the attention those videos generate. That is the entire mechanism: topic, video, views, income. Here is where the timing of this moment becomes genuinely important. AI tools have, in roughly the last 18 months, taken the parts of this process that used to be the hardest and made them dramatically more accessible. The writing, the voiceover, the visuals, the editing. Not push a button easy. Root wants to be honest about that. But easier in a way that simply did not exist 3 years ago. Work that previously required a small production team can now be assembled by one person in a few focused hours. Here is the line Root most wants you to actually hear. If you have been watching this video with some skepticism, that skepticism is understandable. But consider this: the video you are watching right now is the proof. There is no face on camera. There is no live speaker. The visuals were assembled. The voiceover was produced. The entire thing was published using exactly the kind of system Root is describing. You are not being told that faceless YouTube works. You are sitting inside an example of it working. Root wants to be clear about who Root is, because you need this context before we go any further. Root is not a guru. Root does not have a course empire or a coaching program. Root is a regular person who got tired of watching one income try to keep pace with what is effectively a two-income economy, and who went looking for something that could be built on the side without requiring Root to become someone Root is not. This was Root's first faceless channel. It worked. The reason it worked is not that Root is exceptional or uniquely talented. Root is genuinely not. The reason it worked is that the model itself works when you follow it properly. Root followed it. If Root figured this out, you can figure this out. That is not a motivational poster line. That is just a factual statement about what the model requires and whether the average person in our situation can do it. Root does not have a skill set you do not have. Let Root address the 3 things you are actually thinking right now. Not the polite surface objections, the real ones. The first one is, this sounds too good to be true. That instinct is healthy. That instinct has protected you from 100 bad pitches before this one. But here is the reframe. This works because YouTube already pays for attention. That has been its published business model for nearly 2 decades. The only question is who captures that attention and gets paid for it. Historically, the answer was a small group of on-camera creators who were willing to put their face and voice on the internet. Now, with AI tools lowering the production barrier, that group has quietly expanded to include people like us. People who can identify what an audience is searching for, and who can assemble a useful, watchable video without ever appearing in it. This is already happening, by the way. There is a layer of people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s running channels you have probably never heard of. They are not famous. They are not posting on Instagram about their results. They have no incentive to advertise what they are doing, they are simply operating channels and depositing the income. The signal is actually inverted from what you might expect. The loudest, most visible people online often have the most fragile businesses. The quietest ones are frequently the ones who actually figured something real out. This is not too good to be true. It is a market shift that has not fully priced in yet. Those happen. The second objection Root hears is, I do not really understand YouTube. I am not a tech person. This one matters because it stops a lot of people before they even start. But here is the thing, you do not need to understand YouTube the way a creator understands YouTube. You are not becoming a creator. You are not studying the algorithm so you can grow a personal brand. You are following a system that already exists and has already been proven. If you can follow a recipe, you can do this. The skill set is genuinely closer to following a step-by-step guide than it is to being an artist or a technical expert. There is nothing creative or technical that you are required to invent from scratch. The framework is already there. You execute the steps. That is it. This is significantly simpler from the inside than it appears from the outside. It looks intimidating from the outside because the people already doing it look polished and established. From the inside, it is just a sequence of small, repeatable, boring steps done consistently. The third objection, and probably the biggest one for a lot of people, is this: I am too old. I am too late. This boat has already left the dock. Root hears this constantly and wants to address it directly. More video content is being consumed every single year than the year before. Demand is going up, not down. There is more room in the market, not less. And here is the part that is specifically relevant to you: the people building real, sustainable businesses on faceless YouTube tend to be exactly our age. Teenagers are on TikTok. The people doing serious, compounding work on YouTube tend to be patient, consistent, and focused on building rather than chasing virality. That is the temperament that wins on a platform like YouTube. And it happens to be the exact temperament you have already spent decades developing by being a functioning adult with real responsibilities. You are not late. You are, if anything, right on time. Confusing YouTube with TikTok is a category error. They are not the same platform and the dynamics do not transfer. Before Root tells you where this video goes from here, Root wants to be honest about the timeline, because most marketing on this topic is not. This is not instant income. You will not make money in your first week. The first stretch is a quiet one where you are building, publishing, learning, and not yet seeing any financial return. That is completely normal. That is how every digital asset works during its early phase. It is also worth saying plainly, this does not work for everyone. People who quit at week 6 do not see this work. People who follow the system halfway and skip the parts that feel tedious do not see this work. Root is not going to pretend otherwise. But here is the other side of that honest statement: once it does work, once you have a handful of videos that have found their audience, it compounds in a way that almost nothing else in your financial life compounds. The videos keep working. The channel keeps building its own momentum. The income keeps moving up while the active work required stays roughly flat. That is a genuinely difficult thing to explain to someone who has only ever experienced the direct trade of time for money. This is something structurally different from that. So here is where we land. Root knows there is a real gap between understanding a concept and knowing what to actually do on Monday morning. That gap is exactly where most people quietly give up. Root built something simple and specific to close that gap: a small community where Root breaks this down properly. What to do first? Which tools to use? The actual method Root uses to find topics that people are already searching for instead of just guessing and hoping. How the videos get assembled from start to finish. And the specific things Root has learned from running this channel that are not going into a free YouTube video, because then the free video would be 3 hours long and no one would watch it. It is not a course. It is not a high-ticket mastermind. It is not a webinar with an upsell waiting at the end. The link is below. Membership is deliberately affordable, not because what is inside lacks value, but because the actual goal here is for you to use it, not for Root to build a course empire on the back of people who never get started. If you want the actual playbook, it is there waiting for you. If you are not ready for that, that is completely fine too. Root would rather you walk away from this video having clearly understood that one income is no longer a safe plan and that there is at least one option that genuinely fits the life you already have, than sign up for something you are not yet ready to use. Either way, take the risk of one income seriously. And go build your second one.